Did you know that there is a right way to cook potatoes? Unfortunately, many people get this wrong. And in this video, I'm going to walk you through the various ways that you can cook potatoes depending on how you want to use them later and the type of potatoes that you need for various dishes. You'll be absolutely amazed at how your potatoes will come out perfect every single time for the dish that you're trying to make. Growing up in Germany, I can tell you that Germans love their potatoes, and a traditional German dish would never be complete without some sort of potato side dish with it. There are many different types, varieties of potatoes in Germany. In the United States, we classify them a little bit differently. So the first type of potato that you will typically find is a very starchy potato, like a russet potato. Then we have waxy potatoes like red potatoes or new potatoes or fingerlings, and then we have the Yukon Golds that are somewhat in between. The Germans have a different term for that, but that's an in-betweener and sort of like an all-purpose potato that you can use for most dishes. Depending on what you're going to do with your potatoes will determine how you cook them. Now, you can cook them whole or you can cook them peeled. I would cook them whole if you want to use them in potato salads, or if you want to peel them later and just have the potato intact. And I would peel the potatoes if you want to use them in, let's say, mashed potatoes, because that will be a lot easier and they'll cook a lot faster. And then you have a choice between cooking them whole and cooking them chopped. I can tell you that a potato this size will cook a long time. I would say probably if you boil it in water about 30 minutes, which is a really long time, or you bake them, and I think you have to bake them about an hour. So you can peel it and chop it, and that will really cut down on the cooking time. Potatoes like this will take about 15-20 minutes depending on how you make it. And if you want potatoes really fast, I would choose really small ones, and I would not peel them because that's a lot of work, and you can always peel them later. Also, if you don't peel them, you will not be losing a lot of nutrients. A lot of the nutrients sit right underneath the skin, and obviously if you peel them, a lot of nutrients and vitamins are going to be washed into the cooking water. However, if you cook them peeled, you can add salt to your cooking water, and that will make your potatoes a little bit more flavorful. So let's get started, and I'm going to show you various methods of how you actually cook your potatoes. Regardless of how you want to cook your potatoes and how you're going to use them, you always want to start with cold water, because that allows for even cooking all the way through rather than the outside being cooked and the inside not being cooked through yet. You also want to just barely cover them, but you want to have a saucepan or a pot that's large enough to allow some room for the potatoes to move around and not be too crowded. And then you want to bring the potatoes to a boil over medium or high heat. So bring it to a quick boil, but then lower the temperature to a really low simmer to prevent the skins from cracking. I actually like to turn it so low that you can see little bubbles coming up rather than the water really moving, and that's the perfect temperature for potatoes. Otherwise, the skins will crack and they will leach and they will cook unevenly, and that's really what I like to do the best. And then again, the cooking time with the boiling time is 20 to 30 minutes for large potatoes, and potato cubes can be done in about 10 to 15 minutes, and then really small ones will be done about 12 to 18 minutes. Once you near the end time of your cooking time, you can use a small kitchen knife to test them for deadness, and the knife should be inserted and it should go easily all the way in and come out, and then you know that the potatoes are done. If you're making your potatoes for potato salad, you want to ever so slightly undercook them, because then they'll be holding up a little bit better. If you want to make them for mashed potatoes, you definitely really want them all the way done, because then they'll be a lot easier to mash. I always recommend draining them pretty much right away and not letting them cook in the cooking water, especially if they're peeled, because otherwise they just get unnecessarily mushy, and that's not a good experience. And here's a little tip for peeling potatoes. It's actually a lot easier while they're hot, and I love using this German potato pick. I'll leave a link for you below in the description box where you can find it. but it has really tiny tines and they're skinnier than a fork. A fork can easily split a potato in half, especially when it's still hot and soft. But this is also the time when you want to peel them because the skin will come off so much easier than when the potato has cooled down, and this is how easy it goes. And I have a little fun fact to share. My grandmother, so I told you that I grew up in Germany, and my German grandmother, right after the Second World War, or maybe even during, when fuel was really scarce and people had to save wherever they could, she would bring the potatoes to a boil, and then she would have my mom, who was a little kid, and tell her, quick, 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 quick. She would take the pot with a lid, and my mom would have to open up the duvet cover of the bed. My grandmother would put the pot with the hot potatoes and the water in the bed, cover it with the duvet cover, and let that sit there for about 20 minutes. And the potatoes were perfectly cooked, and they didn't have to pay for gas or fuel or however they were cooking their potatoes. So that's just a quick little fun fact that I think is really neat to know. One of my favorite tools for peeling potatoes is this vegetable peeler. I'll leave a link in the description box below where you can find it. It fits the hand perfectly. It's very ergonomic. It's stainless steel, so it doesn't rust, and it peels the potatoes in really fine strips, so you're not losing much of the potato. You're actually just peeling it. And we'll go ahead and do that with these russet potatoes. This little tip up here is if you have, let's say, a little eye that you need to cut out, you can use that just like that. Very nifty. This we're going to cut off. I also like to cut them in pretty even sized cubes to make sure that they're cooking somewhat evenly. And I will go ahead and add the water and salt to it. The potatoes are boiling, but what I like to do is move them from this burner to this, because this is simmer burner here. My tip here is that you can leave the lid on and control how much of a boil you get. You can crack the lid a little bit more, you can crack it a little bit less, and you can just adjust it to how you need it. And this is actually a good simmer. You can see little bubbles coming up. It's not boiling really, it's really just a low, gentle simmer. Let's check these for doneness. Oh yeah, they're soft. And now we'll go ahead and drain them. If you want to use them for mashed potatoes, I always recommend mashing them while they're hot. It will be a lot easier. And if you like to use your potatoes for potato salad, you would cook them with a peel, but let them cool down so they actually become a little bit more solid and hold their shape a little bit better. I will actually make another dedicated video to show you exactly how you can make mashed potatoes. Coming from Germany, we call that Kartoffelbrei or Kartoffelstampf, and I'm going to show you exactly all my tips and secrets for making the most delicious mashed potatoes. You can also cook potatoes in different ways. I have successfully cooked potatoes in a rice cooker on the white setting because it's a very slow boil. It's about 20 minutes, so that works really well for smaller potatoes. You can also cook them in an Instant Pot or pressure cooker. And you can cook them in a slow cooker. That would take a little bit longer, works better for smaller potatoes. And in the microwave, you want to put them in a microwave safe dish with water and put them high on for 5 minutes, and then you can test for doneness, and then maybe you want to do another 5 minutes. So there's various ways of how you can cook your potato. Let me know in the comments how your favorite way to cook potatoes and any other questions you have or comments. I also will leave a link for you below in the description box for my favorite German potato recipes. Go check them out. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.